Hi everyone, welcome to my video about my research proposal titled The Use of Universal Design for Learning Framework in Higher Ed Courses, Faculty and Instructional Designers' Perspectives. Before I go on to the details of my proposed study, let me briefly explain what Universal Design for Learning is and why the discussion around its use and practice has become imperative in higher ed institutions, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. The term universal design was coined by Ronald Mace, who was a professor of architecture in the University of North Carolina. Later on, the term was incorporated in many other fields, including education. The Center for Applied Special Technology, or CAST, is a nonprofit education research and development organization which was founded in 1984. CAST created the Universal Design for Learning Framework and UDL guidelines, which are now used the world over to make learning more inclusive. The UDL guidelines are a tool used in the implementation of UDL, which offers a set of concrete suggestions that can be applied to any discipline or domain to ensure that all learners can access and participate in meaningful and challenging learning opportunities. Due to the pandemic, many courses are now being offered online. Also, there is increased diversity of learners on college campuses. For example, international students, students from varying social, economic, and cultural backgrounds, mature students, students with disabilities, students who work. Therefore, one size will not fit everybody. But that is what happens in our education system, and most on-the-margin students have to change themselves or their styles of learning so that they can be accommodated, because courses and curricula are still designed for the mythical average learner, and we expect everyone to learn and engage on the same terms. Universal Design for Learning has three main principles: multiple means of expression, multiple means of action and engagement, and multiple means of representation. These principles take ideas of inclusiveness, usefulness, and accessibility and apply it to the design of a flexible curriculum. Instructors have the opportunity to use UDL as a lens through which they can examine their teaching and learning practices. Instructional designers have the opportunity to include UDL guidelines in the course design and development process. Both groups, instead of choosing the one-size-fits-all approach, can choose Universal Design for Learning, which can help them design, develop, and deliver courses that are inclusive, accessible, and which increase overall student outcomes and performance. So, now let's talk about my proposed research. A review of the literature in this area shows that Universal Design for Learning has been propagated by higher ed institutions, but there are multiple gaps related to its perception, knowledge, and use by faculty and instructional designers in the higher ed setting. Studies by West et al. And Black et al. Found that there is a need to study UDL as it relates to faculty perceptions, faculty knowledge, faculty use, and faculty training. Smith et al. In their 2019 study showed that instructional design professionals need to be prepared to understand what alignment to the principles of UDL means and actually looks like in practice, as UDL may not be a boxed curriculum that offers teachers user instructions. Existing research further states that for faculty members and those who support them, adopting the tenets of Universal Design for Learning is an effective response to the challenge of creating and maintaining an enhanced connection with students. Collectively, these studies and their findings reinforce that there is a need to understand faculty and instructional designers' perceptions and understanding of UDL, providing training and professional development about UDL to faculty and professionals who support them, which can lead to increased inclusiveness, accessibility, and student performance in higher ed institutions. The research questions for my proposed study are as follows. What is the overall trend of accessibility and use of UDL guidelines in online courses offered at higher ed institutions? Is there a need of developmental training for faculty and instructional designers to encourage an accessibility mindset over an accommodations mindset, the lack of which could be hindering them in including UDL as an important framework in the course design and development process? What are the reasons, if any, that faculty and instructional designers fail to practice the Universal Design for Learning framework in their course design and development process? And how can both these groups be motivated to incorporate UDL guidelines in higher ed courses and during course design conversations with each other? I'd like to talk briefly about the research design and method for this study. To investigate the research questions in this proposed study, both quantitative and qualitative methods will be used. Participants for this study will include instructors and instructional designers from a higher ed institution. With reference to research question number 1, to observe the overall trend of accessibility and UDL guidelines, about 100 randomly selected online courses will be reviewed using the Ally Accessibility Checker available in the LMS. This will be followed by a review of these courses using UDL standards and guidelines. These courses will not be related to any particular college, modality, or subject and can be from both graduate and undergraduate levels. Likert-type scale surveys will be created to collect responses from full and part-time instructors and instructional designers. This will be followed by a semi-structured interview session conducted for instructors and IDs. By participating in surveys and answering interview questions, instructors and instructional designers will support the investigation of research questions 2 and 3 of this proposed study and may help add more information to overall trends for research question number 1. As stated, data collection tools will be both quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative data collection methods in the form of accessibility checks, reviews, and surveys will be used to investigate all 3 research questions in this study. Qualitative data collection through interviews will add more information to the quantitative data. The purpose is to triangulate data to check for overall trends and thematic analysis of data that will be collected. Due to increased diversity on college campuses and with more courses going online after the pandemic, there is an imminent need for this kind of research in higher ed institutions, and I hope you will grant me the permission and funds to carry out this research. I have attached a list of references that support this investigation, and I thank you for your time.